This is the workshop on emissions. One of my favorite things about any metaverse platform is emission. And I want to show like some of the little intricacies and tidbits on how to do it and tips and tricks and things and that I've discovered over the years. So last week I whipped this up, and luckily because I have terrible memory, I don't remember what I did. So I'm gonna be able to demonstrate this like as if I'm doing it for the first time, which is the best way to demonstrate it. But I'm not showing how to make this wearable with this one. Those are previous tutorials. This one is specifically going to be about emission, how to apply it, what to watch out for, or if you have certain things, how to fix it. So let's get to it. So right here, I have the default armature of the Decentraland avatar. I removed the head and the legs, and I want to add some emission to the tips of these adamantium claws. I want to make it look like they're crazy hot and glowing on the tips. So when I pull up this part here and I go to UV editor, I can see my meshes here of the tips when it's selected. And right now it has this UV texture on it, which is like steel. I downloaded this texture from polyhaven.com, I think, which is it's an open source texture website. You can get all sorts of textures, rocks, and let me open it up real quick. I can show you HDRIs and all sorts of cool stuff. It's a good reference, good source for textures if you need them, and then you can download them in different quality. Back to Blender. So I can see here if I go into edit mode and then I select all by pressing A, these are the meshes of the tips. And when I click on texture paint, I can see this here also very faintly. I can see the meshes because they're the same, they're kind of the same color as the background, but but we'll be able to see it a little bit better later on. And then on this side, this is where I can paint. And so I'm going to start with a red paint. Looks like it's still set to like a default reddish tone. But in here, I'm going to turn this up all the way at max. I'm going to pull the red down so it's a nice hot red. In this window, I'm going to select what I want to paint with. And I can choose hard brush or soft brush or airbrush or whatever you prefer. Depending on your needs, you might want to go hard on the next step when we use a fill bucket. That can come in handy, but I'm going to go soft. I want it to kind of fade a little bit. And then you can increase the size of your brush with the radius here. Or you can use the bracket keys on your keyboard, which I tend to use as a shortcut. And I'm just going to paint the tips. Boom, just like that, red. And I'm actually going to go like as far as I want it to go. And I need to make sure I get it from every angle, because you can see underneath, I didn't get it at all. And I want to just check every angle. So this whole side needs to be painted. That's red. Gonna go to the other side, do the same thing. And the reason I'm doing colors is also to demonstrate different colors of emission. Now, as I'm painting, you can see on the texture that red that I'm painting is starting to show up on the meshes that exist in the UV map. This is a good way to do it because sometimes you get like assets. Let's say you didn't make the asset and you downloaded it and you want to like paint it, but it's got the craziest mesh layout, and you can't just like start painting the mesh easily and know where it's going to go. This automatically like positions it where you're painting it, like this. I would have never been able to figure that out if I had to try to paint manually, you know. So this is a great way to make sure you're selecting the right area. Okay, so now I got the red on both sides. Now I want to do like a little bit of a fade, so I'm going to make it more orange. I'll try to do this quickly. Oops, I don't want there. I want to start a little bit after the tips. Make it, I'm just creating like a gradated color basically. Make sure I get every angle. And get both sides. And you see again on the mesh here, we're getting the fade that I'm painting in. So I'm going to continue on now with yellow. It looks like one of those Halloween candies, the waxy candies. Make sure I get every angle. And during this demonstration, I'm just gonna apply this like as quickly as I can. So I'm not looking for perfection for this demo. I actually already have this done. Kind of went over my orange a little bit there a bit, but that's okay. And then I'm going to end it with pure white, and I can just take the hue here and boom, all the way up to 1, or actually, which one is it? Take the saturation down. Hue to 1, saturation down to 0, and that's a pure white. And so I'm going to like make that go past where I had the red. Just like that. All right, and now if I click back to layout, you see my texture is updated and the object looks as I expect it to once it's painted. Back in texture paint, this is very important. You need to save your new texture. For some reason, this is not automatic. So I'm going to save this as Steel OG was the original unpainted one. I'm going to do Steel OG low and keep it somewhere that I will know it is. And then I'm going to make this a PNG because JPEG, especially when it's compressed, can develop artifacts. This is an image that may or may not be the lowest memory size, but that could be something that can be worked out later if I need it to be. Also, these steps, some of these steps, like you can also do painting on other um, programs, but I'm trying to keep everything within Blender to keep it simple for users. I personally tend to mess with especially image optimization and some painting things, especially the next step. I like to do that in Photoshop or Affinity Photo, but this demonstration is all based in Blender just for sort of ease. You have a little bit more control, especially for the next step, which we're going to talk about now. So in here, let me just see now when I switch to, there's two ways to check this. You can see right now, this is set to Steel OG. I can X that out and then you see the texture goes away. That's the original version. And I can just reopen my new glow. Sometimes there's a glitch here where it like reverts to the previous version. So I see here it says steelog.jpg. That's the version that I don't want, right? So I'm going to remove it by going up here on these buttons here and click on Blender, File, Images, and I'm going to completely remove steelog from the file. And now I'm going to add steelog glow. Boom. It's like one weird little Blender glitch that I run into sometimes. It may actually load up and you won't have to do that yourself, but sometimes that happens. In the shader editor here, clicking on this left icon, going from UV editor to shader editor, you'll now see this is sort of like a visual of what we have over here. And you can see how it's connected to the principled BSDF. So here's that file that I just uploaded in the same way here. This is basically the same window as what we're seeing in here. But now we want to add the emission. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add texture, image texture, and I'm going to place it down here. I'm going to click open emission and drag color to color. And now we can add a file in here. And I'm going to make a new file. Or let me think. I'm going to add the file that we have. Steel Glow OG. It's in the drop down because it's already in the file. So I can just click the drop down. There it is. Now it's actually connected, and now there's no emission on it. And there's no emission because the strength here is set to 0 under the emission section. Now if I set that to 1, you're going to see it's going to get a lot brighter. See, it just got a little bit brighter. The problem is I don't want the metal part to get brighter. I want only the glow to get brighter, which means we need to now move on to the next step and create a special emission file version of this, right? And also to note, in Decentraland, various strengths appear different. So you kind of have to learn what strength you want, and I'll be able to go over that and show you a cool little in-world demonstration of that as well. But one is it's pretty good. It's pretty good brightness. You'll see it. I'm going to leave it at 1, but you could push it up to 3 if you want it to be super bright. If you just want it to be really like clear and like strong value, then you could do like 0.3 or 0.5. But 1 is the good amount of strength that I want for the brightness of these claws. So now let's go to texture paint again. And now I'm in here, and I'm going to slide this over. I don't need to paint on the body anymore. I'm going to click on the tool type, and I'm going to go to fill. And I'm going to change this to black. Now the trick with emissions is anything that's white is the brightest glow you can get. Anything that's black has no glow at all. And so the reason that the silver is glowing a little bit is because this is silver and not black. So with the fill painted set to black, I'm just going to click black in an area outside of the little visible meshes that we can barely see. I know that no part of the claws are in this corner here, so I'm going to click that. And so most of the texture now gets black. And I can actually see the meshes a lot easier now too, which is super helpful for me. So now I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to switch my item to paint hard because I don't necessarily want any soft. Actually, you know what? I do want soft for the white. So here's my brush now, paint soft, switch it to black, just like that. And I'm going to lower the size of my radius with the bracket tool, or you can use the radius up here. I'm going to start painting out all the black. or all the white is that's in the black areas that I need within the meshes. And I'm gonna actually fade into the white tips that I have here just a little bit so we can get like a cool little fade. That's why I selected the soft brush instead of the hard brush. Just like that. All this stuff that's outside of the meshes doesn't matter because it doesn't show up. You can clean it up if you want, if you're like, OCD or whatever, but you don't need to worry about it. It's only the stuff that's in these meshes here that are representative of the claws themselves. And again, I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly so that you don't have to sit here watching me do this tedious part. So may or may not be flawless, but almost there. When I get close to the corner here, I don't want to hit the tip with my brush, so I make it really small, and then I'll bring it back again. See, we got this red over here trying to get hit. Almost done. Oh, I still have another row. Okay. I thought I was there already. And I'm just painting this loosely with my mouse. And last one. Oops, got the white. Accidentally hit the tip of the one over here, so I gotta be more careful. All right. And there we have now um, a mesh with a black background um, in the actual meshes with the white lights that we want for the emission. So now I can go back. Actually, again, here we need to save, right? Every time you make any changes here, we need to save. I'm going to save a whole new image, save as, and we're going to call this one emission PNG, save as. So when you're uploading a Decentraland wearable, you're going to have to pay attention to file size, and the PNGs might end up being too big, at which point, in this case, because there's no transparency, you can save them as a JPEG um, when you're done with the file. So now I could have saved it as a JPEG, and I can compare which one is actually lower file size. But basically, you want to use the lowest file size possible. So that's something to consider if you come into an issue where you upload it and the file's too big or something. You can change the PNGs to JPEG with like a compression of like 80, 70, 80%, something like that. Should be helpful. Sometimes the PNGs are really small, so you might not even have to do that. But so here we go. I saved it with a new name, but now the glow is showing up with the black. So I'm going to do the same thing again in this Blender file drop down over here, and I'm going to remove the current image. I have this old one here too that I need to get rid of. And let's go back down here now. So now we have a totally a file with like no oh no, it closed. How would you close on me? Ignore. I should be able to recover that though. Let's go Blender. Blender crash. How dare you? Oh, recover last session. That is not it. Okay. This is fine. So let me double check that this is gone. Luckily I saved both images that I just did. And now we're back to where we were. So now I have an empty Blender um, materials basically, and I need to re-add them, and I have to add that emission thing again because it crashed on me. So let's do that before I add the textures. Image texture again, open emission, color to color. Now I add the files that I made. So I'm going to click in here, open. OG Glow was the first one I made. I can see that's 1.1 megabytes, which is kind of big. And then down here for the emission now, again, let me zoom in so you can see the change to the tips. I'm going to put this to 1. So that should be brighter. That should be brighter if I had this file in there. And let's put it there just to see it. So it's brighter. But I'm going to get rid of that now. And I'm going to add my new emission file. Bam. And so now the silver is what I want it to be, and the glow glows. And one way to check this right off the bat, make sure, did I set it to 1? Yeah, I did. To check this off the bat, put it in the last viewport, the rendered viewport. There's no lights on the scene, so everything turns dark, but the stuff that is emitting light is kind of bright. So that shows that I have emission properly added the way I want it to look. Now I want to show one simple trick, especially like when, not simple, but I want to show a trick. Back in the day, like if you want to make a thumbnail for this, like previous versions of Blender, there was like this toggle button to make it glow. And they decided to make it a lot more complicated, which is really annoying. So this is how you would make it glow. You click over here and you go to, I believe compositor. Yeah. Compositor, you click on use nodes, click on add filter, filter, I think it was. No, sorry. Add filter glare. And you just drop that right in between those two things there. Let me zoom in here. And then you have to go up here next to the viewports, click the drop down and change that to always. And right now there's actually a glow. It's really, really faint. I'm gonna let's go down here on the right on the earth. And so we see the same sort of drop downs that we saw in the UV shader. Click on emission. I'm gonna bump this up to 10. And now you see that glow. And this glow is listed as streaks under glare. You can change that to fog glow, which is sort of the standard glow that we like to see. Or you could do bloom, or you could do ghosts, or you could do simple star. Fog glow is good. This is only important if you want to see what it looks like, and if you want to shoot a thumbnail for your wearable, for example. But I'm gonna do fog glow. This doesn't matter for exporting. I'm gonna put the strength back to 1 because 10 would be like insane in Decentraland. And at this point, we can click the assets and export them. Now I don't need the body, so I can hide those, or I can unhide them. I can leave them and just make sure they're not selected. Click the claws, click the armature, go to File, Export, GLB, include selected objects. I'm going to call it Testeroni. Make sure selected object clicked. That should be good. Export, bam. And then we hop into the builder. I already have it made here. Ignore that one. Click on create collection, testeroni, create, add item, browser on a computer, testeroni GLB. I'm going to select it as both male and female, rarity of legendary, select category, hands. Where is it at? Handwear. I have 3 textures. I have to double check that. Something is loading that shouldn't be there. Let me look at that really quick just in case. Images, materials. That's an issue for another time that I have to no time to figure that out right now. Preview and editor. So with emission, there should be 2 textures. I have to figure out why there's 3, but basically the one texture is the steel, the other texture is the emission. Emission generally is not included in the 2 texture limitation, so you don't have to worry about that. You could have 2 textures plus emission. I think the third texture is probably the body skin of the avatar or the hands. But if I play the emote now, make it dance, you can see that it's glowing a little bit, but really the best way to see it is to actually test in world. So let's go do that. See in Decentraland, empty parcel, trust, and open. Let's put it to night mode. Sometimes it takes a second for these things to load. Load for me. There you go. Quit. Now we have claws with a gradated color glow. You can see the fade from red to white, and that's how you like add color to your emissions, right? So I painted the color on, and it reads, it's a little bit brighter because it's glowing, but that's those are the claws. Now I wanna do another quick demonstration about some issues that you might run into with whatever item you're trying to add emissions to. So I'm gonna close out of here. That looks good, ready to go. And go back to Blender. I'm gonna start a new thing. That one's all set. Press A, select all, X, delete those bad boys. I whipped up this basic shield. Super basic, nothing crazy. Change the viewport so I could see the textures. I whipped this up because let's say you bring in an item that you downloaded from somewhere or have this old asset that you made. When I click on this item and open up the UV editor, hit edit mode up on top and select all, you'll see that like all the meshes are exceeding the visible bounds, which is fine because they repeat endlessly. But when it comes to emissions, this can be tricky. And you'll see too that like some of them overlap, which is not good. And the problem with this is if I want to paint on that, let's say I want to do like write some letters or whatever, it's showing up in multiple spots because they're overlapping, it's showing up crazy. Like that's not going to work for what I want. So in order to fix that, and again, this is going to take some rebuilding. So like if you have a certain item you want, you might need to rethink the base texture that it maybe already has, or you can start from scratch sort of. But for this existing item, I'll hit edit mode, make sure everything's selected. I'm going to pull this up so you can sort of see what happens. I'm going to go to UV, Smart UV Project. I'm going to raise the island margin. This creates a little distance between meshes so that they're not touching. I'm going to just raise that a little bit. Like 0.01 is fine. Depends on your preference, right? That kind of matters, like how I was painting the black and I didn't want to touch the other meshes. If it's too close, it makes it just a little bit harder. So it's good to have the little island. And then I'm just going to click unwrap. And now everything unwraps into the square beautifully. And you can see there's this 0.1 margin between. If I didn't do the 0.1, these would be touching. So now, if I go to texture paint, I can draw anywhere on it and it's not going to hit anywhere else. And we see it like building up on the meshes like we did before. And so the difference between this item now and the one that I just made with the claws is I'm not really trying to create a gradient glow. This time I want these bad letters to glow and I want the silver not to glow, right? So let's do that. So like here I save this black version. I'm gonna just call it test one black. Maybe. Let's do PNG. Save as. And now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this up. I'm going to turn this into emission. So I'm going to make, let's do the fill. Let's get white, full on white. And I'm going to make these all white. This is the thing where like, I'd rather use Photoshop or Affinity Photo. I just feel like I have a lot more control and familiarity, but obviously it's up to your preference, but it's kind of cool that you can do this within Photoshop. And then I'm going to make the background black. Pop that in. Let's get the hard paint. Go through the meshes again. This is obviously a little bit harder to get accurate because you have all these crazy little spots that you have to get into. Like I can even fill in over here some of these closed areas. You try that. Sometimes you can get away. Oh, see, I got the white there. So that's as far as I can go with that. I don't know if there's a tolerance. In Photoshop, there's a tolerance, maybe advanced. Yeah, it might be this. Changing this down might make it less sensitive. But I would go in there and start clearing out all the parts that I don't want, which I demonstrated before. I won't do the full thing now for you guys to have to sit and watch. I'll just do quick. All this should be black. And again, it doesn't matter the areas that have no that are not under a mesh. But this is decent enough. You get the point. I would go in there and make sure that's all white and black. And then I save the image, save as test one emission. Let's see if it lets us add these without having to delete them. Actually, let's do the shader editor. Close that, open it up, desktop. Sometimes I find it does that weird bug based on the name. So like if they both start with steel, that makes you have to delete them from the Blender files. So there's the black, emission, add, texture, image texture, drag that, set it to 1, open, desktop, emission, boom. And look, that opened the Steel OG again, the weird bug. So I'm gonna go in there and remove Steel OG completely, delete, and let's see, it didn't do the emission, so let's add the emission. You see, did that make the silver white? Yeah, we're good. All right, yeah, so that's how you would make that have emission, just the letters and these little white areas that I didn't delete, of course. But that's how you would handle emission. I think that's actually about all I can offer you regarding emission. Are there any questions about that? Check the Discord real quick. Questions. Looks good. Okay, now I know you guys maybe want these claws, so this is what I need you to do, and this may or may not work. Let me delete this. I deployed this last night, and then I realized I deployed the wrong code, so I had to deploy just before. I had to deploy just before this workshop. So I'm going to jump in there now. I have a badge claim. If you want the clause, get the badge. You need to jump into Decentraland and click this dispenser. And if I did everything right, it should work. And if it doesn't work, we have an alternative method. But let's check it out. Let's see if I can get my badge. Jump in the little teleporter, Riviera Roustan. Right now, if you were logged in before the workshop, you might need to restart to get it to load. And boom, badge claimed. It's live. So you have like 4 hours to claim this badge. So jump in, restart Decentraland. When you're ready, jump in, claim the badge. That will give me your wallet address to airdrop the claws to you. Also, if you run into any issues, like I ran up there and I just clicked it once. Sometimes I don't know if people like mash hit the button. If I hit it again, you'll see it says error claim period over or badge already claimed. That's because I already claimed it. Some people hit it like 10 times and then they get that. So you just need to hit it once and you'll get the awesome claim sound and claim the badge. And it'll show up in your OpenSea if it's successful. If you get that error, check your OpenSea. You should see it there. If not, message either me or Kazenokai, and you should be able to, we'll get your wallet and airdrop you the thing. Like there's Dr. Drip. He claimed it. Anyways, all right. So that's emissions, like emissions 101. Um, if you have any questions, let me know. Hit me up anytime. Hope that's helpful to you. Thank you for attending.